Welcome back. In the pantheon of classic RPGs, few titles stand as tall as Final Fantasy VI. Released by Square in 1994 for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, this sixth installment in the Final Fantasy series is often hailed as one of the greatest video games of all time. It marked a pivotal moment not just for the franchise, but for the RPG genre as a whole. While Final Fantasy VI might not have had the flashy 3D graphics or full-motion video cutscenes that would later become synonymous with the series, it more than made up for it with a deeply engaging narrative, an unforgettable cast of characters, and a soundtrack that still resonates with players nearly 3 decades later. The impact of Final Fantasy VI on the gaming world cannot be overstated. It was one of the first games to push the boundaries of what a video game narrative could achieve, setting a standard that many RPGs would strive to reach in the years to come. Its influence can be seen in countless titles that followed, from the more modern entries in the Final Fantasy series to other RPGs that sought to blend storytelling, character development, and gameplay in the same masterful way. Furthermore, Final Fantasy VI introduced several gameplay mechanics that would become staples of the genre. The innovative Esper system allowed players to customize their characters in new ways, while the game's non-linear second half offered unprecedented freedom in how players could approach the story. These features, combined with the game's complex battle system and challenging boss fights, created an experience that was both deep and rewarding. As we journey back to the era of 16-bit gaming, Final Fantasy VI remains a shining example of what can be achieved when creativity, passion, and technology come together. It's a game that not only defined a generation, but also continues to inspire and influence the world of gaming today. Whether you're a longtime fan revisiting the game or a newcomer curious about why it's held in such high regard, Final Fantasy VI offers an experience that is as captivating now as it was in 1994. Before we move on, hit that subscribe button and stay up to date on more deep dives into retro gaming. At its core, Final Fantasy VI tells a tale of rebellion, loss, and the struggle for hope in a world teetering on the brink of destruction. The story begins in a world where magic, once a powerful force, has faded into legend. In its place, an authoritarian regime known as the Gestalian Empire has risen, exploiting technology and science to exert control over the populace. The Empire's quest for power is driven by their discovery of Espers, magical beings from a parallel dimension whose powers can be harnessed through experiments to create devastating magitech armor and weapon. As the story progresses, the heroes uncover the Empire's sinister plans to use Espers to revive the long-lost power of magic and dominate the world. This journey takes them across a variety of locations, from the deserts of Figaro to the treacherous Phantom Forest, and even into the heart of the Empire itself. Along the way, they recruit more allies, including the former Imperial General Solels, who defects after witnessing the Empire's atrocities firsthand, and Shadow, a mysterious ninja with a tragic past. The story's first act builds to a climactic confrontation at the Empire's capital, where the heroes discover the true extent of Emperor Gestal's ambitions. However, it's Kefka, the Emperor's deranged right-hand man, who steals the show. A figure of chaos and malevolence, Kefka starts as a mere annoyance, but his unhinged behavior and thirst for power gradually reveal him to be the game's true antagonist. In a shocking twist, Kefka betrays Emperor Gestal and seizes the power of the Espers for himself. With this newfound power, he shatters the balance of the world, ushering in a cataclysmic event that leaves the world in ruins. This moment is where Final Fantasy VI takes a bold narrative turn. Unlike many games where the heroes manage to stop the villain before disaster strikes, Final Fantasy V plunges its world into darkness, scattering the heroes and leaving them to pick up the pieces in a desolate, post-apocalyptic landscape. This world of ruin, as it's known, represents one of the game's most innovative storytelling techniques. Players are given the freedom to explore this new world at their own pace, reuniting the scattered party members and discovering how each has coped with the despair of their situation. The story of Final Fantasy VI is a masterclass in narrative design, blending personal stories with epic world-shaping events. Its themes of hope, loss, and resilience continue to resonate with players, making it not just a great video game story, but a timeless one that stands as a testament to the power of interactive storytelling. When it comes to gameplay, Final Fantasy VI is a perfect blend of classic RPG elements with innovative mechanics that were groundbreaking for its time. At the heart of the gameplay is the traditional turn-based combat system, which was a staple of the Final Fantasy series. However, Final Fantasy VI added its own twists and improvements that made the battles more engaging and strategic than ever before. One of the most notable aspects of Final Fantasy VI's gameplay is the unique abilities each character brings to the table. Unlike many RPGs, where characters often feel like interchangeable avatars in Final Fantasy VI, every character has a distinct skill set that reflects their personality and backstory. For instance, Terra has the ability to transform into her powerful Esper form, unleashing devastating magic. Locke can steal items from enemies, a nod to his treasure hunter persona. And Sabin can perform powerful martial arts techniques using the Blitz command, which requires players to input button combination similar to those in a fighting game. This emphasis on character-specific abilities adds a layer of depth to the gameplay, encouraging players to experiment with different party configurations and strategies. It also makes each character feel truly unique, contributing to the game's rich storytelling by tying gameplay mechanics directly to the character's identity. The game's exploration is another key aspect of its gameplay. Final Fantasy VI features a sprawling world map that players can traverse by foot, chocobo, airship, or even Magitech armor in certain sections. This world is filled with towns, dungeons, and secret locations, each offering their own challenges and rewards. The game's structure is relatively linear during the first half, guiding players through the narrative and key events. However, once the story transitions to the world of Ruin, the game opens up considerably, allowing for a more non-linear experience. Players can choose to pursue the main objectives or take time to explore the world, seek out optional characters, and uncover hidden secrets. The gameplay of Final Fantasy VI is a masterful combination of traditional RPG elements with innovative mechanics that were ahead of their time. Its deep, character-driven combat system, expansive world exploration, and the introduction of the Esper system all contribute to an experience that remains engaging even by today's standards. It's a game that rewards both strategic thinking and creativity, making it a timeless classic in the RPG genre. When discussing the graphics of Final Fantasy VI, it's essential to remember that the game was released at the height of the 16-bit era, a time when developers were pushing the boundaries of what the Super Nintendo could achieve. Final Fantasy VI is a prime example of how artistry and technical prowess can come together to create a visually stunning experience, even with the limitations of the hardware. The game's visual design is a masterclass in pixel art, with richly detailed environments, expressive character sprites, and imaginative enemy designs. The world of Final Fantasy VI is diverse, featuring a wide range of settings from the industrial, smoke-filled city of Vector to the lush, green fields of the Figaro Desert and the mystical, otherworldly realm of the Espers. Each location is carefully crafted to evoke a distinct mood, whether it's the foreboding atmosphere of the Magitech research facility or the serene beauty of the snow-covered town of Narshi. The use of color, shading, and texture gives each area a sense of depth and life, making the world feel expansive and immersive. One of the most visually striking aspects of Final Fantasy VI is its use of Mode 7 graphics, a technique that allowed the SNES to simulate 3D effects by rotating and scaling background layers. This is most notably used during airship sequences, where players can soar over the world map, watching the terrain scroll beneath them in a way that was revolutionary for its time. The seamless integration of Mode 7 graphics with the game's traditional top-down perspective added a dynamic element to exploration, making the world feel more alive and interconnected. As impressive as the graphics are, it's the music of Final Fantasy VI that truly elevates the game to legendary status. Composed by Nobuo Uematsu, the soundtrack is widely regarded as one of the greatest in video game history. Uematsu's work on Final Fantasy VI is a tour de force, blending a wide range of musical styles and themes to create a score that is as emotionally varied as the game's story. The soundtrack features several standout pieces that accompany the game's most dramatic moments. The aforementioned opera scene, with its fully orchestrated score, is a highlight not just for the game but for video game music as a whole. The piece area, De Mezzo Caractere, sung by Celeste during this sequence, is a testament to Uematsu's ability to blend classical music with the game's 16-bit limitations, creating a moment that feels grand and theatrical, despite the hardware constraints. Another notable track is Dancing Mad, the final boss theme, which is an epic, multi-part composition that mirrors the chaotic and climactic battle against Kefka. The piece spans several minutes, shifting through different musical styles and tempos, reflecting the escalating tension and the sheer scale of the confrontation. It's a track that perfectly encapsulates the sense of finality and the high stakes of the game's climax. Even outside of these major themes, the soundtrack of Final Fantasy VI is filled with memorable tunes that enhance the atmosphere of the game's world. From the tense militaristic tones of the Empire Gestalt to the hopeful, adventurous spirit of searching for friends, Uematsu's compositions are integral to the game's ability to convey emotion and narrative depth. The graphics and music of Final Fantasy VI are a testament to the artistry and technical skill of the development team. The game's visual design pushes the limits of 16-bit graphics, creating a world that is rich in detail and atmosphere. Meanwhile, Nobuo Uematsu's masterful soundtrack elevates the narrative, turning key moments into unforgettable experiences. Together, these elements create a game that not only looks and sounds amazing, but also leaves a lasting emotional impact on players, securing Final Fantasy VI's place as one of the greatest RPGs of all time. The legacy of Final Fantasy VI is one of both innovation and inspiration, a testament to the game's enduring impact on the RPG genre and the broader gaming industry. Final Fantasy VI quickly established itself as a landmark title, pushing the boundaries of storytelling, character development, and gameplay in ways that few games had done before. Nearly 3 decades later, it remains a touchstone for developers and a beloved classic for fans. One of the most significant aspects of Final Fantasy VI's legacy is its narrative ambition. The game set a new standard for storytelling in video games, weaving a complex tale that balanced an ensemble cast of characters with a world-spanning conflict. The themes of hope, loss, and resistance against tyranny were explored with a depth that was rare for its time, resonating with players on an emotional level that few other games had achieved. The game's willingness to tackle darker and more mature themes, such as identity, sacrifice, and the consequences of power, paved the way for future RPGs to explore similarly complex narratives. Final Fantasy VI's impact extends beyond just gameplay and story. The game's music, composed by Nobuo Uematsu, set a new standard for video game soundtracks, demonstrating that game music could be as emotionally powerful and artistically significant as the best film scores. Uematsu's work on Final Fantasy VI has been widely celebrated, with many of its tracks becoming iconic in their own right. In the years since its release, Final Fantasy VI has been re-released on multiple platforms, including the PlayStation, Game Boy Advance, and mobile devices, ensuring that new generations of players can experience its magic. These re-releases, often with enhanced features or updated graphics, have kept the game in the public eye, further cementing its status as a timeless classic. The game's continued popularity speaks to its enduring appeal and its ability to connect with players across different eras. The legacy of Final Fantasy VI is also reflected in the broader Final Fantasy series. Many elements introduced in this game, such as the emphasis on character-driven storytelling and the inclusion of more complex and morally ambiguous villains, have become hallmarks of the series. Kefka, the game's iconic antagonist, remains one of the most memorable villains in gaming history, with his chaotic, nihilistic worldview and his shocking actions leaving a lasting impression on players. His character set a new standard for video game villains, influencing the creation of other complex antagonists in the series and beyond. Final Fantasy VI also left a significant mark on the fan community. The game has inspired countless fan works, from fan fiction and fan art to remixes and covers of its music. It remains a popular subject of discussion and analysis in gaming communities, where fans continue to debate its story, characters, and themes. The game's influence can also be seen in the continued popularity of 16-bit style RPGs, with many indie developers citing Final Fantasy VI as a major inspiration for their work. The legacy of Final Fantasy VI is one of lasting influence and inspiration. It redefined what an RPG could be, setting new standards for storytelling, character development, gameplay, and music. Its impact can be felt not just in the games that followed, but in the broader culture of video gaming. As one of the most beloved and critically acclaimed games of all time, Final Fantasy VI continues to be celebrated by players and developers alike, standing as a testament to the enduring power of great game design and storytelling. Thank you for joining us. If you like this deep dive into the retro world of Final Fantasy VI, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Until next time, keep questing and keep gaming,